Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Namaste on our Tuesday morning session.
Buenos días a todos, bienvenidos a Namaste y a nuestra sesión del martes.
Once again, I'm very grateful to have Marisa here while Joy is at the beach with her daughter.
Una vez más estoy agradecido de tener a Marisa aquí mientras Joy está en la playa con su hija.
So today we are going to focus on a word that we have spoken about quite a bit here at Namaste.
Hoy nos vamos a enfocar en una palabra que hemos usado bastante aquí en Namaste.
It's a word and an experience that is often overlooked.
Es una palabra y una experiencia que enseguida no se ve,
Because it is so often misinterpreted.
porque muchas veces es mal interpretado.
And yet it's one of those keys that slips so easily into the lock.
Y sin embargo es una de esas llaves que entra tan fácilmente en la puerta.
So that all the tumblers fall into place. You had a hard time with keys. Wait,
I
let's
know.
see again.
No llaves, I
Tumblers.
got keys, but tumblers, para que entre la llave directamente. You're a brat.
Yeah. As soon as I said it, I thought, oh, she's going to have fun with that one. Okay. And that word is humility.
Y esa palabra es humildad,
To be humbled.
para ser humillado,
To let go of what has no value.
de soltar lo que no tiene ningún valor,
So that we can embrace what has total value.
para poder abrazar lo que tiene valor total.
And here's the problem.
Y aquí está el problema.
That which has no real value is that which we cling to the hardest.
Aquello que no tiene ningún valor implícito es a lo que nos agarramos lo más fuerte.
Our idea of who we are.
Nuestra idea de quiénes somos,
That's what we have to let go of.
eso es lo que tenemos que soltar.
And that takes, oh gosh, it takes such great humility to do that.
Ay, eso lleva, Dios mío, tanto humildad para poderlo lograr.
So I'm going to read just a sentence that maybe it's two sentences that I wrote this morning.
Voy a leer una frase, bueno, quizás sean dos frases que escribí esta mañana.
And then I want to share something from Thomas Merton in regard to humility.
Y luego quiero compartir algo de Thomas Merton en cuanto a humildad.
And I'm going to ask as you hear this to welcome it, as we said before.
Y les voy a pedir mientras escuchan esto que le den la bienvenida,
Even
como
if
hemos
you-
dicho antes.
Even if you don't totally understand it, just welcome it.
Aún si no lo entiende por completo, dele la bienvenida.
Even if you feel yourself in active resistance, just
Aun-
welcome it.
Aunque se siente uno en resistencia activa, dale la bienvenida.
There is a part of all of us that wants and literally needs to resist this message.
Hay una parte de todos nosotros que necesita y de hecho lo hace, resiste este mensaje.
And that's because the false self knows that this is it.
Y es porque el ser falso sabe que esto es.
The gig is up.
Ya se acabó la broma.
Good. I'm sitting here thinking, what can I throw at her that'll
Sí,
be
está
challenging?
tratando de trabarme con mucho éxito hasta el momento. I'm saying you're succeeding at trying to trip me up.
Okay, this shouldn't be too hard. Here we go.
A ver,
The experience of wholeness
la experiencia de ser entero
can only come
solo puede venir
when we forget our lower or split selves
cuando nos olvidemos de nuestro ser más bajo, de nuestro ser que está a mitad,
and by deciding to see as God sees,
y al decidir ver como tal como Dios ve,
once again, by deciding to see as God sees,
de nuevo, al ver como ve Dios,
focus only on what is true.
enfocarse solamente en lo que es verdad.
This is called humility.
Esto se llama humildad,
To focus only on what is true,
de enfocarse solamente en lo que es verdad,
which is the same as seeing as God sees,
que es lo mismo como ver tal como ve Dios.
rather than seeing through the lens of the ego,
En vez de ver por el ego,
which sees nothing at all.
que ve nada, para nada.
You only think you're seeing something,
Solo piensas que ves algo,
but what you think you're seeing is not really there.
pero lo que piensas que estás viendo no está allí
And
realmente.
you will resist that until the end of the world.
Y vas a resistir eso hasta el fin del mundo.
Even when you come to the point that all of us are at now,
Aun cuando llegas al punto donde todos nosotros nos encontramos ahora,
where we've actively considered this possibility,
donde hemos considerado esta posibilidad activamente,
still there is this place of active resistance
aún hay este lugar de resistencia innato,
until there isn't.
hasta que ya no esté.
So what brings about that isn't?
Entonces, ¿qué es lo que llega a eso que no sea lo falso?
Humility.
Humildad.
The understanding that in my limited self, I know nothing.
El comprender que dentro de mi ser limitado yo no sé nada.
And it's only by falling back into the arms of grace,
Y solo es al caer en los brazos de la gracia,
my desire to see as God sees,
mi deseo de ver tal como ve Dios,
that I see
que veo
what is real.
lo que es real.
Okay, so now let me share what Merton says about this.
Ahora déjame compartir lo que dice Merton sobre esto.
When humility delivers a person from attachment
Cuando la humildad le lleva a la persona al despego,
to their own works and their own reputation,
a sus propios trabajos y su propia reputación,
they discover perfect joy.
descubren una felicidad completa.
Let's go back over that one sentence again.
Vamos a repasar esa frase de nuevo.
When humility delivers a person from attachment,
Cuando la humildad le lleva a una persona al despego,
attachment to their own works and their own reputation,
el despego a sus propios trabajos y a su propia reputación,
only then do they discover perfect joy.
solo entonces va a sentir felicidad completa.
Those of us who are of course miracle students,
Aquellos de nosotros que somos estudiantes del curso de milagros,
we know that God's will for us is perfect joy.
sabemos que el deseo de Dios para nosotros es una felicidad
Or
perfecta
perfect happiness.
o felicidad perfecta.
What does that mean?
¿Qué quiere decir eso?
It means joy without opposite.
Quiere decir felicidad sin lo opuesto.
It means a happiness that is beyond this world.
Quiere decir una felicidad que es más allá de este mundo.
And the question is that what you want?
Y la pregunta ¿es eso lo que quieres?
Because if you do want that, this is how you get it.
Porque si quieres eso, de esta manera lo vas a lograr.
When you are delivered from attachment through humility.
Cuando te lleva al despego por parte de la humildad.
And what we're really talking about is the attachment to your lower self.
Y lo que en realidad estamos hablando es sobre el apego al ego y al ser pequeño.
To all of your desires,
De todos tus deseos,
everything you think you want,
todo aquello que piensas que
which you
quieres,
don't really want,
lo que realmente no quieres,
you just think you do.
solamente piensas que lo
Because
quieres.
none of it's ever given you what you really want.
Porque nada de eso realmente les ha dado lo que quieren.
But humility opens the door to that experience.
Pero humildad abre la puerta a esa experiencia.
That's why the first thing we heard says the experience of wholeness can only come
Por eso escuchamos que la experiencia de ser entero solo viene
when we forget our lower self.
cuando nos olvidamos de nuestro ser más bajo.
I like that word forget.
Me gusta esa palabra
It's
olvidarnos.
not telling us to battle our lower selves
No nos está diciendo que
or to,
batallemos
or to
con nuestro ser
destroy
bajo
or destroy the ego.
o destrozar el ego.
It's saying just forget it.
Está diciendo simplemente olvídalo.
And the way that you forget something is by focusing on something else.
Y la manera que uno olvide de una cosa es por enfocarse en otra
By
cosa.
putting your attention onto something that is higher or greater.
Para ponerle atención en algo que es más elevado o más grande.
And that's what Thomas Merton is describing.
Y eso es lo que está describiendo Thomas Merton.
When he talks about humility delivering us from attachment to our own selves.
Cuando habla que la humildad nos lleva al despego de nosotros mismos
And our own reputation.
y nuestra propia reputación.
That may be a tricky one.
Eso puede ser bastante retoso.
Ever since we were in high school, we were told the importance of having a good reputation, right?
Desde que estamos en la prepa nos han hablado de la importancia de tener una buena
Your
reputación.
Your rep meant everything.
Tu reputación quería decirlo todo.
Who you hung out with meant everything.
Con quién te acercabas quería decirlo todo.
What teams or clubs you were in meant everything.
Qué clubes o equipos participabas quería decirlo todo.
And now what Merton is saying is that none of that means anything.
Y ahora lo que está diciendo Merton es que nada de eso tiene ningún significado.
All of that is just meant to perch up that lower or egoic self.
Todo eso es nada más para elevar ese ego o ese ser bajo.
So once again, if you want perfect joy,
Entonces, una vez más, si quieres una felicidad completa, perfecta,
you must become unattached.
tienes que entrar al despego.
It says perfect joy is only possible
Dice, la felicidad perfecta solo es posible
when we pay no more attention
cuando no le ponemos ninguna atención
to our deeds and our own reputation
a nuestros hechos y a nuestras propias reputaciones
and our own excellence.
y nuestra propia excelencia.
It is only then
Es solamente entonces
that we are at last completely free
que finalmente estaremos completamente libres
to serve God in perfection
a servirle a Dios en perfección,
for God's sake alone.
simplemente por Dios solamente.
Wow.
Wow.
How do you say wow in Spanish?
Wow. It's just spelled differently.
I love this end, for God's sake alone.
Me encanta este final de la frase, que es solamente por el ser de Dios.
It would be the same as saying, for love's sake alone.
Sería lo mismo el decir que por el amor.
It's the same as saying to give everything to love.
Es lo mismo decir entregarse por completo al amor.
This is what humility is.
Esto es lo que se trata con la humildad.
It's not the negative thing that the ego believes it to be.
No es la cosa negativa al que cree el ego.
It doesn't mean that you lost or that you failed.
No quiere decir que perdiste o que fallaste.
In fact, it means the exact opposite.
De hecho, quiere decir todo lo contrario.
It means that you're about to cross over that great threshold
Quiere decir que estás a punto de cruzar ese umbral
of heaven itself.
de cielo.
I underlined the words here, at last completely free.
Subrayé esta parte de la frase que dice, por fin, completamente libre.
How many of us can say that that's what we want?
¿Cuántos de nosotros podemos decir que eso es lo que
To at
queremos?
last be completely free.
De finalmente ser completamente libre.
Just feel that for a moment.
Siente eso por un momento.
Is there a part of you that's still holding back from that freedom?
Hay una parte dentro de ti que todavía se está agarrando, de que está negando esa libertad.
Is there a part of you that is still attached to that lower self?
Hay una parte de ti que sigue apegado a ese ser más bajo.
I hope you realize that the answer is yes.
Espero que se den cuenta que la respuesta es sí.
Because if you say, nope, there's nothing left,
Porque si dicen no hay nada que queda,
then you didn't get this lesson.
entonces no entendieron esta lección.
Because if we're here, we're still here to learn this lesson.
Porque si estamos aquí, seguimos aquí para aprender esa lección.
To be completely free.
De ser completamente libre.
And so, humility simply calls us to be mindful.
Entonces, humildad solo nos llama
I love when
a
you
estar
breathe.
consciente.
I love when you breathe like me.
Me encanta cuando respires como yo lo hago. Es que tenemos que copiar hasta los suspiros. That's okay, sweetie. Thank you.
Let's just hold still within that for a moment.
Vamos a quedarnos quietos dentro de eso por un momento.
The desire to be completely free,
El deseo de ser completamente libre,
to let go completely,
de soltar completamente,
to fall back into the arms of grace.
de caerse para atrás hacia los brazos de la gracia.
The experience of wholeness can only come
La experiencia de ser entero solo puede venir
when we forget our lower or split self
cuando nos olvidamos de nuestro ser más bajo, de nuestro ser que está en dos, dividido en dos,
And through the decision to see as God sees,
Y por medio de la decisión de ver tal como ve Dios,
we focus only on what is true.
nos enfocamos solamente en aquello que es verdad.
This is called humility.
Esto se llama humildad.
So there you have it.
Ahí lo tienen.
It's a pretty simple message, really.
Es un mensaje bastante sencillo en realidad.
It begins by recognizing that we don't have our best interest in mind.
Empieza a reconocer que no tenemos nuestros propios buenos intereses.
That's a hard one, but it's true.
Eso es difícil, pero es verdad.
Because if you had your best interest in mind, you wouldn't need this lesson.
Porque si tuvieras tus propios intereses en la mente, no necesitarías esta lección.
So choose to keep stepping back into that divine experience.
Entonces, elige echarte para atrás hacia esa experiencia divina.
The ego always steps forward.
El ego siempre da el paso hacia adelante.
The soul falls back and surrenders.
El alma se cae para atrás y se entrega.
The ego always speaks first and loudest.
El ego siempre habla primero y lo más fuerte.
The soul relaxes and speaks quietly.
El alma se relaja y habla suavemente.
So,
Entonces,
thank you, my dear.
gracias, mi amor.
You can relax now.
¿Puedes relajarte? Are you sure?
Yeah, sure. Because we're going to turn to everyone else, and we don't want to subject them to this rhythm.
Okay, that's kind of fun.
Would anyone like to share anything or ask a question? Anyone here at Namaste to begin? Yes, please. We may need you after all, but no, you can do it. Okay. All right. Here, you take this, and you come and sit.
Share the mic.
I tell you what, why don't you sit here, and I'll turn the computer around. We're going to hear from Luna. One second.
Hola a todos.
Hello to everybody.
Quisiera compartir que para mí el mensaje de hoy ha sido muy revelador.
I'd like to share with everyone that today's message has been very revelatory.
Porque vengo de una familia muy tradicional mexicana,
Because I come from a very traditional Mexican family,
donde hay muchísimos dogmas y muchos juicios acerca de lo que está bien y lo que está mal.
where there's a lot of dogma and a lot of judgment about what's right and what's wrong.
Y para mí estar aquí y comenzar a vivir en completa libertad como una niña libre ha sido una prueba muy importante.
So for me to be living here and feeling like I'm free and feeling like a child who's free has been a very enlightening message or experience.
Y soy astróloga y para mí fue muy difícil comenzar a hacer videos de astrología porque me sentía que tenía muchos errores, que no me veía bien, que no era perfecta como para hacerlo.
And I'm an astrologer, and when I thought about making some astrology videos, I hesitated because I thought I'm really not good enough, I don't know enough, I'm going to make mistakes.
Y hace una semana empecé a llevo 3 videos apenas y un programa en vivo, y entonces ha sido como salir de ese ego de querer ser perfecta para poderme mostrar, y como que mi alma quería compartir el conocimiento aunque no fuese perfecto.
And since a week ago, I've completed three videos and a live presentation, and it helped me to get over this idea that everything had to be perfect, and in order for me to show myself.
Y la vez pasada que hablaba de la espada para juzgar, yo recordé que yo había sido muy dura conmigo misma para juzgarme y bueno, ahora a través de la humildad necesito reconocer que está bien, que no necesito ser perfecta.
But now, because of thanks to humility, I've realized that I can move forward without having to be perfect.
Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you, Luna. Turn this around. That's really a very powerful message, because so many of us, we do a reverse humility. Humility, or the need for humility doesn't only come from arrogance, I can do anything. It's also the idea that I don't deserve to do this, or I'm not going to do it right. I'm going to make mistakes. And the truth is, you are going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. That's part of the game. And that's okay. It's perfectly okay to make mistakes. And so humility isn't only the way that we pump ourselves up in arrogance, but also the way that we deflate ourselves and push ourselves down. Humility is really just the return to the decision to see as God sees and to know what God knows, which means simply to love as God loves. That's all, to let go of ourselves. Yes, Barack, I see you have your hand up. Go right ahead.
Good morning. I've been considering the authenticity of my own guidance, or the guidance that I think I'm receiving. And I am constantly reminded that all I have to do is let go of what my ego self thinks and accept what I'm being guided to do simply by moving into what the universe is presenting for me. So if I am thinking that, I don't know, maybe I should do this or that or the other thing, I had to go get a COVID test this morning, and how was I going to do that? And I just let it all go. And it worked out perfectly. By the way, I'm negative, so I'm all set to. Hey, 3 more days. And I've got a friend coming up to see me later on, and I was worried about how that was all going to work out, and I let it go. And it turns out her timing is going to be perfect. And my humility is that I don't have to do anything. I just let the lesson roll to me. I don't have to go find the lesson anywhere. It's right there in front of me. All I have to do is learn it, be aware of it, open myself to it, and just let it come in. And spirit will always, if I trust it, will always put me in the right place at the right time. Always. Thank you.
Relax and trust. That's the key. How simple is salvation? And how easy, so we often say, well, it's simple, but it's not easy. Well, it's easy if we let it be easy. If we just practice this. Because all we're saying over and over is fall back and surrender into the arms of grace and love. How can that be hard? Why do we make that so hard? When all it really is just letting go of my need to be right, or my need to defend who I think I am. Just let go and let love have its way with us.